So avijja is the main problem that we will face. Avijja is just the opposite of vijja. Avijja covers up the citta completely. It's like you have a thick blanket over a source of light, and through that thick blanket you see like maybe some sort of shadow see it. You really don't know what is going on. All what you can do is have some sort of conclusion of what is going on, or some sort of interpretation. You see only shadows. And that is the cloth that we call avijja, that covers up the real knowing. And vijja is the knowing nature of the mind. It has no problem. Wherever it goes, it can know this or it can know that. That is called avijja. And that is, after avijja is destroyed, that is all what is left. So, but until we are there, we have to deal with avijja. Not knowing in line, not knowing correctly, not knowing at all, or knowing wrongly. Avijja is the master of magic. It's just, when we see the letter U, we think we see the letter X. And that is the master of delusion, or the master of magic that makes anything that we see in this world, or makes anything that we see in this universe. So that's why we have to be extremely careful once we get in closer contact with avijja. We just cannot believe anything. There's no way that we can believe anything it tells us. Once we have only avijja as our main enemy, once we have passed beyond greed and hate, then we have to be extremely careful. He is the master of delusion. He is the master of magic, so he will try to lead us all the time in the wrong way. So if we are not very careful, and if we are not mindful, but at that stage we should have mindfulness and wisdom on our back or in our hand to constantly counteract the magic of this avijja. But when we look at our situation right now, is that we are all the time running for soap operas. They have a nice color. We're running after this soap opera. We're running after that soap opera. The moment we catch it, you know what happens? Disappear. So we're sad, and then we look for the next soap opera. We catch it, and it disappears. We catch it, and it disappears. Whatever we see, whatever comes up, we catch it, and it disappears. We're just running after these soap operas. Once we see our mind just running after these beautiful things that we think is beautiful, now, when you grow up and are more or less bored of this running after, then you're not getting any excitement out of it at all. You see the children running after, blowing in the soap bottle. But once you have it in the hand, what do you have in your hand? Nothing. It's an illusion. So we run all our life after these kind of illusions. Once we grow up and we will see that these are just illusions, What's the use of running after them? We just see them in line with their own nature, appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing. So like we see Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara and Vijnana appearing and disappearing. They have nothing to do. They have no truth in itself. They have no value in itself. They just appear and disappear. Just like the flower grows, flowers up and decays. Grows up, flowers and decays. Grows up, flowers and decays. That's the nature of the flowers. That's the nature of the Khandas. But we make the whole universe out of these things. We boil it up out of these things, out of these 5 Khandas. This whole universe exists. And it fools us into believing this is nice and this is not nice. This is beautiful and this is ugly. And we go for it. Especially we go for it. The beautiful or the pleasant we want to see, we want to experience. The unpleasant we don't want to see and we don't want to experience. When we get our mind a little bit calm, we will notice that the happiness of the mind, the peacefulness of the mind just arises within our own heart. Nowhere else. It doesn't arise because we catch the soap bubbles. It doesn't arise because of this or it does because of that. It just arises because of one sole reason, because we centered the mind into stillness. We centered the mind, or we brought the mind, or we brought the heart back to its origin. Deep Samadhi is the origin of the mind. It's the knowingness of the mind. That's where it's home. And it's like you have left home for a long time, you are happy to return home. And you just feel very comfortable and very safe. And that's the reason why we try to get into this Appana Samadhi. To get home for the first time, to see the value of our true home. And that's why we have to put a lot of effort and a lot of determination into this kind of task. Into this developing the skill of getting the mind completely calm. To get the mind completely one point. If we are not able to do that, we always are going to speculate, what is it? What is our true home? And we are always afraid of losing the things that we are so attached to. Of losing our memory, of losing our thoughts, of losing our feelings, and so we cling to them. But if we know our true home, then the task of investigating these feelings or seeing the feelings in their true nature is much, much easier. We have an objective, we have a base. We have the base, we know within our own heart, we know through our own experience that there is something beyond everything that we experience during all our days and all our nights. There is something that is so utterly peaceful, there is something that is so comforting, and there is something that is so safe. There is no safer place in this whole universe. Wherever we go, we will be afraid. We will be afraid that this is going to happen, or that is going to happen, or this is not going to happen, or that is not going to happen. But once we are back in our true home, what are we afraid of? There is no fear. There is no worries. There is nothing than peacefulness and happiness. Once we have this basis, we can see or can observe the things in line with their truth. Then we see the Rupa appears and disappears. The Rupa comes into life, gets old, get sick, and then disappear. But it has nothing to do with the one who knows about this. It has nothing to do with the one who observes this. And then we see the same thing for feeling, Vedana. So pleasant feelings arise and pleasant feelings cease. Neutral feelings arise and neutral feelings cease. Unpleasant feelings arise and unpleasant feelings cease. We just see them in line with their nature. And there's nothing to worry about. And there's no problem to stay with the arising of a pleasant feeling, stay along and see it ceasing. And it's the same thing. We are not worried when an unpleasant feeling arises. We stay with it and we see it ceasing. Anyway, we cannot run away from it anyway. There's no way to run away from this feeling. There's no way to run away from this body. As long as this body lives, then we're stuck with it. So I was just talking about the fleeting nature of everything, anicca, impermanence, that everything arises and everything ceases. And we observe everything, the 5 Khandas arising and ceasing, arising and ceasing. So a pleasant feeling arises and ceases. It will stay for a while, and while it stays, it even changes within that time. It never stays the same way. Just like our breath never is the same. Every mind second, the breath changes. And so is it with a feeling. So is it with the body. The body changes every mind second. Feeling changes every mind second. It arises and ceases. It grows up or it is decayed. The pleasant feeling, the neutral feeling, and the unpleasant feeling. So there's nothing to worry about. Whatever arises will arise if you want it or if you don't want it. It is like you're in a city, and a car comes, if you want it to come or not want it to come, it still will come. The bus will still come. Anything will still come. If you're in your garden, and your neighbor decides to dig the hole, he will still dig the hole, if you want it or not. We cannot change things. We just can be able to stay with them and make the best out of it. In that previous situations, we just do not react. We listen and investigate what this is. What we say is digging a hole. What does it boil down to? Digging a hole is a symbol that we have within our mind. But what does it mean in terms of the 5 Khandas? Is it body? Is it feeling? Is it memory and association? Is it thinking? Or is it consciousness? It's a mixture of all this that we call digging a hole. There is some sense impressions. We see something, we hear something, so that is consciousness. Some memories come up that tells us it's digging. Feelings comes up if we like this kind of idea or do not like this kind of idea. So it's all brewed up. And we react to this brewed up idea. He's digging a hole, or he's making some noise, or whatever. That's what we're reacting to. We do not react solely to the khandha. Vedana is Vedana, Sanya is Sanya, Sankhara is Sankhara, Vijnana is Vijnana, and Rupa is Rupa. If we understand their true nature, then that's just their nature. They arise and cease, in line with the truth, and nothing else. Whatever we think is happening in the world is a mixture of the five khandhas. It's a mixture of memory, thinking, consciousness, Vedana, and both. Now think about the possibilities. I told you, when we look at the TV, all what goes into the TV is three colors: red, green, blue. And what comes out of TV are either talk shows, of movies, this kind of movie, or that kind of movies, or news, or whatever. And that's what we see, isn't it? We don't see red, green, and blue. We want to see all these different things. We don't want to see just red, green, and blue, because after watching that for 5 minutes, we would be very bored. And that is the same thing with the five colors. So it's a combination, and for the colors, there are quite enormous combinations. I don't know, it's 16 million of combinations for all the colors. Our eyes. It's not all the colors. They're infinitive colors. But our eyes can only distinguish 16 or 17 million of colors. It can only distinguish 128 different shades of grey. So, and the same thing is with the five khandhas. They're incredible combination of the five khandhas. You just put in a little bit of this khandha and that khandha and that khandha, and you have another impression. And that's what we're falling for. So in order to get down to the tricks of Avijja, we have to separate them back into the five khandhas. So this is body, so this is Vedana, so this is Sanya, and this is Sankhara, and this is Vijnana. And that's it. So we see everything arising, we see, and then we see how it boils up. When we have enough mindfulness, we see that the khandha of Vedana, for instance, triggers the khandha of memory. I had this feeling before. The khandha of memory triggers Sankhara. Thinks about it a little bit, and then the feeling that comes with the thinking khandha will increase. And within no time, we have within no time, we have a solid emotion that we call love, or that we call hate, or that we call greed, or that we call envy, or that we call worry, or whatever. We don't see how it is formed. And that's what is that fools us. And we constantly fool. And we think we are clever. And out of these symbols that we have already, we create new symbols. We make new differentiation. And there is no end to differentiation. There is no end to proliferation. Proliferation of the mind. We can send our mind anywhere. We can distinguish in anything. Even within a simple leaf, or within a wall, or within a carpet, we can see everything that we want to see. We can see figures. We can see this, or we can see that. Just the way we want. So we have to, in order to understand what is really going on, in order to understand the true nature of things, we have to get back down to what is really happening. And all what we know, when we close our eyes and sit on our cushion, all what we know is what is really happening is that there's either the body, that we are feeling the body, or that there is a feeling, or that there is a memory or association, or that there is a thought, or that there is consciousness. That's all what we know. And that's all what is there. So we have to boil it down. Whenever we get a symbol that doesn't fit into these five khandas, then we have to boil it down. So what is it meaning? What's the meaning of that? Our symbols that we use in the world and our language is so full. It's so full of lost the word. They are so full of different meanings, of different ideas we have about it. So when I talk about this, and you talk about this, we have different understanding even about the same word. And that's where most of our communication problems comes in. We just have different views of it, so then we fight about just the same word. What I understand about love, you understand very differently. What all my views involve, what all my expectations about this word is, or this idea is so different. And that's why we fight. We fight for our view and our opinion to be the only accepted opinion in the world. And when somebody else comes who is stronger than we, then we are defeated. And then we feel hurt. Isn't it? Just look at your life and you will see any kind, be it in a partnership or be it in relation to teacher or student or in the university or in the school or anywhere or in the work, it's always the same. One who has the power, can determine what his interpretation of this symbol, which one is correct. And you just have to follow. You might think differently, but that is your luck or your chance. But you will always react to it, because you think what he thinks is not correct. And that's why you get into trouble. But all what you get into trouble is with the ideas you have about this thing. The moment you boil it down to what it really means, you boil it down to the 5 khandas, where's the problem? The problem has just disappeared. Because that is actually what is there. You cannot dispute that. You cannot dispute a feeling that has arisen. You know it has arisen. How can you dispute that? You can say it's pleasant or neutral or unpleasant. There's no dispute about that. You know that the body, when you feel the body, there's no dispute about the body. And there's no dispute if you have a thought or not. Or? We only can dispute about all this combination of things, all this mixture. About the things that we used to describe the processes that are going on within ourselves. In order to communicate, we need a certain amount of language, we need a certain amount of words to describe what is going on or to help each other in our daily tasks. So if I want to have a cup of tea, then I have to use that symbols cup and tea. And if the other person, if you go to a world in Africa where they don't know tea, then we are in trouble because we don't get the tea. If we have certain ideas, the British have certain ideas about what is tea like. So if they get another cup of tea, then they will be very much disappointed. Other people, like Germans, have a certain idea about what is coffee like. So when they get into another country like America, then they don't call that coffee. Well, that's the way it happens, and with the food it's the same thing. But we never reflect, when we drink, that this is drinking. And something is going into the mouth, there's a taste with it, and then the moment it reaches the end of the mouth, and goes down to the stomach, the taste is gone. And then it stays in the stomach and creates havoc in the stomach because we ate too much, or we drank too much, or this or that. And this havoc, we don't like. That's why we run to the next doctor and ask him for some medicine to calm down the havoc in our stomach. Because we were not actually careful of what we are eating, or how much we are eating, or if this kind of food or if this kind of drink is in line with our need of the body. We never think about the needs of the body when we take in foods and drinks. We only think about the needs of our tongue, the taste. And that's what we go for. And when you see yourself, or when you apply a little bit of mindful while you're eating, you will see. It goes in there, oh, that's a nice taste, I must have another thing. Oh, why did the other person take it, now I don't have anything. And then immediately anger arises. Because the other person has taken you something away that you wanted to taste even more. You've tasted it once, you know the taste, but if that taste would be satisfactory, then you would be satisfied and wouldn't need another piece of it. Isn't it? If love would be satisfying, we wouldn't need anything else than love. If the partner that we love, would be there, and that's all what we would need, that would be the end of our problems. We wouldn't need to eat, or we wouldn't need to drink, or we wouldn't need anything else. Because just love can make us satisfied, completely satisfied. But because these things, these sensory inputs have never any kind of long satisfactoriness, that's why we're running constantly after it. And when we take in food, and especially if in this kind of environment where the only pleasure that we have during the day is food, we'd better take a look at it. And then we will see it very clearly. We will see it, we thought, our eyes saw so quickly, our mind is so quickly, within a second we have sorted out all the food that we want to eat. Isn't it? And then we grab for it. Then we don't give it a second thought if this kind of food is healthy or not healthy, we just grab it. And stuff it in, And then we think, why did we, when we really want to do some practice, and then at 10 o'clock, 2 hours later, we feel so tired. So we just want to lay our head on the pillow. We've lost our mindfulness in the field of the sense. And that is here, in this kind of environment, a sense that we can observe very well. When we are out in the world, there are millions of senses that are evoked every moment. So it's difficult to see it outside in the world. Here, it is very easy to see. It's very easy to observe it, and it's very easy to observe one's reaction, and it's easier to put some mindfulness on it to see what it really comes down to. Just 1 second of taste and 24 hours of trouble in the stomach. But we don't think in this way, do we? We see it, we want to eat, we want to taste, until there's hardly anything going anymore in our stomach. And then we have to give up. Because the unpleasant feeling of a full stomach is too big, or is greater than the pleasantness of the taste. That's why we stop. In some decades in Rome, they have what have they done? Because they wouldn't give up on the taste. They put a finger into the throat and chucked all the food out, so that they could eat some more. Bulimia, whatever. So, and that's what we're after. We're after the senses. And the senses have their root in the body. If we destroy the body, the senses will be destroyed. But we don't destroy the body in the sense of that we kill it. I mean physically kill it. We destroy it by investigating. Seeing the true nature of the body. Once we see the true nature of the body, once we see the loathsomeness of the body, and if you remember the comparison of a factory where you put all the nice and good smelling things in, and what comes out is only shit, nobody would support this kind of factory in our world. But we support it all day long. Whatever we put in, whatever gets into the touch with the body is nice, smells nice, and tastes nice, and has some pleasant appearance. Whatever comes out of the body has a very unpleasant smell, a very unpleasant taste, and a very unpleasant appearance. So, compared with a factory, and nobody would support this kind of factory. So why do we support it? The cloth that comes in contact with our body, we have to wash. The hair we have to wash. The feet and the body we have to wash. Otherwise we wouldn't feel well. Otherwise we wouldn't feel very comfortable. So we have to take up all this heavy work for keeping this body clean, for keeping this body healthy. For what purpose? Ask yourself, for what is the purpose of it? Yeah, Fritz, just sit down. What is this purpose? Why do we keep up this factory? Because we never actually looked at it. In the world we investigate everything in line with if they fulfill our needs. When it comes to us, we never investigate. We just take things for granted. That's the way it is. We never, when we go in a shop, we buy something, and if it's not in line with our needs, we never buy it again. Easy, isn't it? But when it comes to our mind, and it tells us to do this or that, and promises, oh, there will be some happiness if you do this, or there will be some peacefulness if you do that, we never check it out if it really keeps its promise. Because if we would check it out, we would see that it constantly lies to us. It's a notorious liar. It constantly lies to us. Constantly fools us in believing if you do this or if you do that, then we would get some nice and pleasant results. If we are dissatisfactory right here now at the moment, then it fools us into thinking if we drink something or if we do this or if we go out, then this will be very pleasant. But when we go out, after we've been out, the same unpleasant feeling comes back again. We just escaped our feeling of unpleasantness by doing something else, by overlaying another feeling of excitement that this will end our unpleasant feeling. That's all what it is. But we go for it. We are fooled by it constantly. We're fooled by somebody, that constantly lies to us. And when you remember in the beginning I was talking about Avijja. It's just trying to fool us. It's a big magician to fool us into things. He wants to know, he wants to see, and all what he can do is interfere. Make some conclusions or make some suggestions, all what he can do. But he does not know the things in line with the truth. So the power that we have, the power of investigation, is the power to undermine this notorious liar. Prove him wrong. See, you promised me happiness, and all what I get is sad. Next time he promises us again the same thing, we still fall for it. We have to do that, we have to prove him wrong so long until it understands that it really does not do. And then he will give up. So, and it's about time to close the talk. So, people who have come here a long time to this monastery, they have seen certain changes taking place. When I came to this monastery 12 years ago, there was a time, at that time the teacher was Ajahn Panya. There was a time to see Ajahn Panya every day. He was sitting there for tea, and then you could ask him questions about Dhamma or about other things, and he would answer them. Sometimes he gave a talk for 15 minutes, but you could come to see him every day. So he was there every day. Ajahn Dik, I don't know. In the end, it has changed in that he was there twice a day. In the morning you could go after the meal, you could go and talk with him, or in the afternoon you could go and talk with him. With Ajahn Dik, I really don't know how it changed, but I think you could at least see him in the morning. With me it's different. I give a talk, and if I have time, I let you ask some questions. When you look at the way Thanachan Mahabua teaches, or the way Thanachan Mahabua, then it's the same thing. Visitors come, they ask him if they can talk to him, and then he says either yes or no. And if it's a large group, then he goes down to the sala and gives a talk there, and in the end he might give the allowance to ask some questions, and he will answer them. It depends on his time, it depends on his energy he has left. So I'm pretty much more in this direction. I don't like just sitting there, and talking about this and that. I haven't been interested in talking about the world for years now. More than 10 or 12 years I have no interest. I don't even want to know what is going on in this world. Only if a person comes, who doesn't know anything about Dhamma and he talks about, then I will listen to him. But most of the time, when I come here, and sit here, I want you to give some instruction to make your stay the most profitable time that you have. That's why I give you some instruction, and then that's why I ask sometimes, if you have some question or if you have some problems. More problems, not intellectual questions. I won't answer intellectual questions. But if you have some problems with your practice, you always can ask. You always can ask. And I try to do the best, to guide you in the right direction. So it's a bit of a change for people who have been there, coming to Wat Papantat for a long time. So I hope you can adjust to it. So, if there are no more questions, then I think you have plenty of new ideas how to do your work. If you have questions, then it's time to ask.
Could you repeat the number of colours that there are, and I haven't heard it before, and how many we can?
I think it's 16 million colours that we can distinguish with our eyes. 16 million. But the basis is red, green, and blue.
And is it do we process that many? Or?
Yeah. We do see all this distinction of colors. Within yellows we can see so many distinction of colors. You take, when you go back home, take a book about color. What is it? How is it called? It's the color mixing or something like that. There it shows, there are 3 wheels of red, green, and blue, and that you can get any kind of spectrum of color out of this. People who paint use this. But anyway, it's the same thing, For us, there are more colors that we can distinguish. So the computer can produce more colors that we can actually distinguish. And it depends, of course, on our eyesight. Our eyes are not able to see other colors that we can measure. Like infrared, we cannot see infrared. Or we cannot see the blue spectrum, the cold spectrum of a color. So, beings that exist in these kind of spectrums, we cannot see. So heavenly beings or beings down in the hell, we cannot see because our physical eyes cannot distinguish. But some people can actually. They see them as real persons. They see devas or they see angels, what we call it in the West. They see angels as real persons. They just have the ability. Or some people hear heavenly beings talking, or hear heavenly music, or whatever. It's an ability. But it's more or less the ability of the chitta than the ability of the physical eyes. So there's much more than we think out there in this, or out in us, than we have ever seen.